Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I wanted to do this video because Valentine's Day is coming up. A lot of people are stressing out about the love in their life or the lack of love in their life. So I just wanted to provide some thoughts because the concept of love and relationships have been kind of like a prime focus in a lot of my students and clients' lives that I'm trying to help people build healthier and better relationships that are based a little bit more with some spiritual notions, kind of more, obviously based on authentic love, in addition to having God kind of in the relationship. And I've been around the block in the spiritual world. I've done the whole yoga in India thing. I've been to Buddhist meditation centers in Thailand. I've traveled the world. I walked the Camino in Portugal and Spain. So I've definitely exercised my spirit throughout the years, and just with studying different spiritual theories and texts, that a lot of people, I think, in this world, it doesn't matter what religion you're looking at. To some degree, the religion matters, or what spiritual foundations people have in life. I do think a lot of people naturally are looking for their soulmates. And so I wanted to do this video to provide you a very logical perspective on soulmates. Because I do think in the world of love, we can get caught up in a world of fantasy and we don't really see reality. And sometimes this happens a lot in relationships and marriages, that when you are at a certain point in your relationship, certain things just start to fall through the cracks. Like the intimacy goes down, especially once you start having kids. It's like if the husband's working all day, and whether the wife works or is just taking care of like the house and the children, all of your energy is being expended to basically kind of survive and to provide for a child. So certain love things start to fall through the cracks, and if the relationship isn't being worked upon or talked through, or people aren't checking in, it's very easy for one person to stray or to start getting like a wandering eye in the relationship, especially if there's no foundation in terms of having, I don't know, some guidance to try to work through these tough times. Like obviously a Christian marriage is going to use a lot of the Bible in terms of how to kind of help during rough times and rough patches. So I want to provide some logical perspective on soulmates. I feel I've met soulmates and soul connections of various kinds throughout my life. I believe, in a marriage with a soulmate. There are soulmates of so many different kinds, and I think a lot of times people get the word soulmate and soul connection confused. They're not interchangeable. And you can have a soulmate of varying degree. Not all soulmates of the opposite gender will be there for deep love and romance. I felt like I was married to a soulmate, but it wasn't necessarily like a Cinderella story to some degree, where it's like the most epic, like, romantic love in your life. Like, I just think where I'm trying to go with this is that some people do believe in the one and the soulmate who will kind of complete them and have this glorious love. I think fairy tale romance can exist between two people, but it has to be a mutual thing where it's being worked upon, because if one person isn't willing to put in the work, or if it's a one-sided relationship, that fairy tale is going to get crushed. So where I'm trying to go with this is that you have to understand the reality versus the fantasy of a relationship as well as a person. It's very easy for us to put somebody on a pedestal and have this characterization of them, and they kind of call it an overlay, where they are a character in our own movie and we are a character in their movie. And so a lot of times we're trying to play these characters, but we're not seeing people for who they are. And a lot of times when people are searching for a soulmate or craving for a soulmate type of love, they're searching for kind of like a character in their story, in their book of life. And I'm not gonna downgrade it. I'm just gonna say that when you have to be realistic about a soulmate, and that's where the logical perspective comes into play. So a soulmate is going to be a human with weaknesses, and they are going to be on their own path of spiritual development. And so, a lot of times people can meet a soulmate and then get really disappointed because they don't really match up to their idealism. And at some point, you have to look at your life and be like, have you been disappointed with every single person that's entered your life? And maybe it's because your expectations or your desire is so high that not everybody can meet that expectation. You have to kind of understand that people, especially deep loves and deep soul connections that come into your life, are going to be there for lessons and reasons, and some of it might be through a marriage that will be eternal. But there are things that you're going to learn along the way, and you have to be able to distinguish the difference between reality and fantasy, and just know that if it is a true deep bond and a soul love, that you're going to help each other on the path to try to better improve each other's lives. I'm going to do a separate video about this, but I do believe romantic relationships should be an asset and not a liability. Who the hell wants to buy a car that's a liability and or a lemon? Nobody wants that. You want a car that's going to get you from point A to point B safely, and there's like a guaranteed safety factor in that car. And so I think relationships are similar. And so if it is a true deep soul connection, you have to understand that you are both students and teachers, and you're trying to learn from each other. So this is going to lead into my next point about a logical perspective on soulmates, is that your soulmate might not be single. He or she might be in a committed relationship, or she might be married. Or if they are single, they might not choose you. That's the hard reality of this life. I've posted blog links below, so please read them. But I've never believed in promiscuity or believed in cheating. I think cheating is some of the most selfish fucking things you can do. And it's like, if you're going to cheat, you might as well be single, because the reality is a lot of people who are cheating, a lot of it does root back to greed. It's like you want to have it all. You want to have the relationship and the husband or the wife, but you also want all the other stuff on the side. And I think that's really greedy. So I think if you meet somebody who you have a deeper soul bond with and they are married, you have to have very strong platonic boundaries. Do not cheat. Do not be that wife, or excuse me, that man or that woman that is interfering into someone's relationship or into someone's marriage. To me, even if somebody has a boyfriend or a girlfriend, especially if it's been, if they've been together for, years, that is an absolute no-go zone. You can cut your attraction or try to, cage your attraction to where you can keep things platonic. So I've seen this a lot, more so with women than men, where they go and meet, the soulmate or the love of their life, and he's married, and then they start falling down the rabbit hole of this intermarital affair, and someone's going to get hurt. And the reality is, most likely it will be the single person that's getting hurt, because the person who's married most likely will not leave their marriage. There might be a learning lesson in that soulmate connection who's married, and guess what? Maybe that lesson is for you to learn to let them go, is to learn how to let go of a powerful love. When you have such a deep love for somebody and you want the ultimate best for them, maybe you are not the best thing for them, and you have to learn how to let them go. That is one of the strongest lessons that God can give anybody. And I've been there. I've had to let people go, and it's exhausting and it's horrible and it's painful as all hell, because you just want to be chosen. You just want to be loved. But if your soulmate is married, do not be that person of living your life in a fantasy world where you are going to impede on someone else's marriage. If that person has any thought about leaving their marriage, that is a decision between he or she and the husband and the wife. That should not come from you being that trigger to make them leave their marriage, nor should you want to, because the reality is, if somebody leaves their marriage, there is a possibility that they will go with you and you guys will be the love of each other's lives and everything will be fine and dandy. And then there's another reality where they're going to do the same thing to you. It's like someone's moral compass and their character of fucking around inside of their marriage is not, well, I guess not ethical or right. So there's something there that is lacking, or, you know, you guys are just meant to learn a lesson of, you know, being friends with each other. I already talked about this, but there are soulmates and soul connections of all types. Not every person. I do believe you have more than one soulmate. I just think that there are various degrees and levels, and some of that might also come through the same gender. You know, I've met women in my life who I think they're going to be in my life until the day I die, and they will be lifelong connections. So they are lifelong soul connections. They've really helped me out in my life path. But obviously it's just not a romantic love. You know, a lot of people think that you can search for your soulmate. I don't know, maybe that's true. I'm not sure. All I'm going to say is that I just think the divine timing of things is so precious, and it's going to happen when the timing is right. I think if you are in a very dark place in your life, like, there is a possibility you can meet a soulmate who can kind of be that beacon of light to kind of pull you out from the darkness. But I do think when you've gone through certain life experiences and kind of like graduations in your own life, that you will end up meeting a deep love when you have graduated and you have walked in the light and you are continuing to walk into the light and you're not going in and out of that darkness. And so there are lessons to be learned, and just know that these people are humans and they have flaws. They have their own spiritual principles and beliefs that may or may not align with you. And yeah, those are just some logical thoughts and perspectives I have on soulmates. But, you know, I think respect is one of the number one things that we can have as human beings in terms of our relationship with one another. And so if you respect yourself and respect your soulmate, you will respect where they are in their life path. Maybe they're not ready for a relationship or a romantic thing at that point in life, or maybe you're ready for marriage and they're not. If they're already in a marriage, you respect that marriage for what it is, and you two can either be friends or just cut the cord, and then you learn how to let them go. That sucks. It's hard, but sometimes it's necessary to do that. And I think, too, in order to meet a soulmate or a really deep love that can come into your life, you have to cut the cord of all the junk and the clutter that's in your life. Even if it's these platonic relationships where they're kind of flirty or they've crossed a platonic boundary where, you know, it's like, I'm not saying conversations about sex in general. Like, you know, I have conversations about dating with some of my guy friends, and I help some of my guy friends in their dating world. But, you know, it's like if you're talking about sex with one another, that's not a friend. And I just believe, like, if you want to be ready and prepared for that deep love in your life, like, you have to clean your garage. Like, you can't just leave your garage a mess, meaning your house, your phone, your mind, your perversion. You can't be cluttered with a bunch of junk because you're just not going to be ready for it. So you have to do the work. You have to prep yourself. You have to be ready, and you have to learn how to let go of certain connections that no longer serve you or that could be a detriment into a relationship that has potential to be a great love and a romance. So, anyways, those are some thoughts that I have. Since it's Valentine's Day season, I might as well go into some thoughts about this. But if you have any, thoughts or wisdoms on what you think, I just think it's really important to have a logical, rational perspective on soulmates and not just get caught up in the emotional body, the romantic side. It's a balancing act. You don't want to be so overly logical and rational that like nothing romantic can happen, but then you don't want to be so over emotional and romantic to where it's like you're just not using your brain, especially if the people are just not in alignment. All right. Have a great day. Thank you so much for listening. Happy Valentine's Day to you, whether you're single or in a relationship. And yeah, if you'd like, please subscribe to this channel to help me build it. You can also help me out on Patreon if you believe in my message and my voice. And thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. See you guys soon. Bye.